This episode is presented by Recovery Centers of Montana.
I finally found some help through Recovery Centers of Montana. I ended up at the lodge for 55 days. It was the first place that I ever felt like I had a safe place to be where I could take off the mask and unload all of my trauma, and it saved my life.
Learn more by calling 701-401-3000.
That's 701-401-3000.
Hi, I'm Megan Invick with Americans for Prosperity, North Dakota. One of the cornerstones of our Road to Opportunity agenda is tax relief, because North Dakotans deserve to keep more of what they earn. That's why we're advocating for the elimination of the state income tax, along with meaningful property tax relief tied to responsible local spending. Learn more about the Road to Opportunity and our plan to eliminate the state income tax at afpnd.org.
Today's program is sponsored by the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives, representing locally owned electric co-ops that power homes, farms, and businesses across rural North Dakota. Electric cooperatives are committed to reliable, affordable energy and strengthening the communities they serve. Learn more at ndarec.com. This episode is presented by the Blue Rider.
Check out the Blue Rider in downtown Minot for a laid-back vibe and outdoor patio and 16 beers on tap.
They've got live music, trivia nights, and one of the deepest record collections around.
Plus fair prices, friendly faces, late-night favorites like grilled cheese and pizza.
The Blue Rider, serving Minot since 1994.
Good drinks, good music, good people.
You're listening to Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. I'm your host, Rob Port. If I sound distracted, it's because I've been busy covering this story all morning. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad Oban.
He's right of center, I'm left of center, both sides of the political spectrum.
I think it's cathartic. I think it's a necessary and proper debate. I'm glad we're having it.
And honestly, we have to do better.
Okay, I don't know why I'm getting blamed for this, right? The opening of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in Medora, North Dakota is
Wait,
imminent.
Rob, I thought we were talking about the opening of the Obama Library in Chicago. I think I got some bad notes for this show.
No, it's a different president. So actually, I think it was, now maybe our guest, it's Robbie Lauf. He's the executive director of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library. I keep wanting to say the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation. Completely separate organization.
We love them too.
They're good. They're also good. We also love them too. But Robbie doesn't work for them. He works for the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library Foundation. And they're building, and it feels like we've been talking about this library. Well, we haven't. We've been talking about this library for years. It's about to open. I'm very excited. I think it's going to be exciting. I'm not important enough to be there on the day. But as exciting as I am, and I say that, I'm not throwing shade. I didn't even try.
I can literally get you a ticket, man. You got to come.
I don't like crowds that much.
Now you're changing the tune. He's not invited and he didn't want to come. Okay, well, you're getting an invite. You're getting an invite,
Wow.
and then you can avoid it and come on the 5th with me. Yeah,
that's right. I could say that's how important I am. I turn the invitation down. I don't need to be there.
That's pretty dang cool, Rob.
Yeah, I am excited about this project. I think it's going to be so fun. And Robbie, actually, though, correct me because Chad's right. The library for President Barack Obama just opened in Chicago. Now, first, because somebody was asking me about this, I think the first presidential library was actually Herbert Hoover.
Oh, you were so close. So first, Chad is right. Obama's library opened on Juneteenth. This is a pretty historic year for America, not just because it's our semi-quincentennial, which I practiced very hard learning how to say, but because we have 2 presidential libraries opening in one year for the first time in American history. That's pretty cool for presidential library nerds like myself. I think I'm in good company here of people who love American history and think that the more we tell American history, the better health of our country will be from a democracy standpoint. But the first presidential library was actually FDR, just after Hoover. And the reason was, and why they're called presidential libraries, is because the guy was president for so long and had so many papers from 2 of the most consequential period in American history, the Great Depression and World War II, that when presidents died, whoever had their papers at that time just became the owner and repository of America's history. That's a pretty bad way, as I have two people perhaps are pretty big advocates of open records and being able to actually access the public's information. That's a pretty bad way to keep history. So they created the presidential library system. It has since transformed into every president since then getting a library. And they've become, in the 21st century of technology, really museums dedicated to the life and legacy of the person they're about. So while, people are going back posthumously and building libraries for people before FDR, Hoover's is actually one of my favorites in West Branch, Iowa. Rob, you're pointing at one of my absolute favorites. It's the town's like stuck in time at the time Hoover was there. He's buried there. It's beautiful. It's in the most gorgeous cornfield you'd ever seen. But yeah, President Lincoln's gotten one. And now, of course, I think our greatest president, greatest American, TR, is getting one in the most beautiful place on earth.
Well, I did some Google fact checking while you were talking there, and it turns out we were both wrong. The first privately funded library was actually Rutherford Hayes.
Well, now you're changing the definition
privately.
As we're going. The first presidential library is FDR, Rob. I got you here.
First official one that was established through Congress and everything.
We're gonna real time fact check Robbie here. I mean, Jesus.
Two can play this game. I've got no hobbies, Rob. I mean, presidential libraries is all I've had. All I've had. I'm 11 years into this thing. No, yeah.
Robbie, walk us through what's going to happen. It sounds like the president Trump's coming out on July 1st, and then it's 3 or 4 days. Can you tell the viewers what's going to be happening out in Medora?
Well, first, Medora is absolutely open for business, is something I want to start with, too. There's a lot of people discussing about the incredible opportunity of having a sitting president of the United States coming to Medora, the highest ranking public official to Medora since TR himself. Just think of that. As somebody who, I get emotional, I get shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. That's going to kick it off on July 1st with the dedication of the library, a visit from the president to the institution itself, and then a public speech at the Burning Hills Amphitheater, which is, to Rob's point, TRMF, our incredible partner who puts on the Medora musical. That's the location of that speech. Then
is
begins.
That a ticketed event, Robbie?
That is a ticketed event. It's free tickets, and you can access them online at trlibrary.com. There's tickets. TRMF has tickets online as well. It's run through Freedom 250. If you go to the Freedom 250 website, you can get tickets. Obviously, a pretty hot ticket. So I would recommend doing that sooner rather than later if of interest. But I would note as well that it's a 4-day celebration. The second and third is a celebration with our benefactors and our large supporters, including incredible leaders and philanthropists and citizens of North Dakota who made this project possible. We have programming going in the library on issues ranging from the state of the Navy today as Assistant Secretary of the Navy, TR, with 3 different admirals discussing and debating TR's naval history as he's wrote over 33 books, TR did. I think his writing is actually it's not as good as his public speaking, but his best one's definitely the naval history of 1812. To which party has a better connection to Theodore Roosevelt today? Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Kevin Kramer friendly debating that topic. To Arthur Brooks talking about how TR used the outdoors to heal himself. To all of the former governors in one panel discussing the importance of the Badlands in Medora. So that's on the second and the third. Then begins also a drone show, which, fireworks are very cool, but our 21st century, a very drought-conscious take on fireworks is 1,776 drones in the sky above the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library, telling the life story of TR over 3 days, the second, third, and fourth. So I think that's going to be, you're going to see some photos of that and some media of that and filming of that, and really I encourage people to come out and see it live. But then on the 4th at 10:27 a.m., yes, we're that nerdy and symbolic. TR's birthday is October 27th. The actual grand opening of the library begins. You'll have a pretty incredible experience watching it online live, or Rob, when you decide to come last second in person, let's just say there'll be anything from Rough Riders to some.
I'm coming. I'm just going to wait for the crowds to subside a little bit.
I'll let you know.
I am very excited about this. I don't want to. I think it's great. I've been to several presidential libraries. My favorite was the Reagan Library in
It's
Simi
kind of
Valley.
the best one as of now. Yeah.
It's really fantastic, and it's really also. I mean, I think that they're also museums of that era, right?
Yes.
Because we talk about that. I mean, just colloquially, we'll talk about the Obama era, the Bush era. The whatever and so it's really important history. It's an academic resource where you have the papers of the presidency and stuff like that. You're bringing in expert speakers. I mean, I know there's speakers that happen. I ended up on the Reagan Library email list. So even though I'm nowhere near California, every time they have speakers in, They do all sorts of stuff there. So this is a real boon for North Dakota. Talk about, though, past some of that, like just the average citizen who's going to go, they're making their trip. We all know why you go to Medora, because there's so much other cool stuff there. This is another stop when you go to Medora that you're going to go there. What are people going to see when they walk in the doors?
Well, I will tell you, first, there's multiple reasons to come to the TR Presidential Library. One, if you're a history lover like all of us and you love the state of North Dakota, you will find a 21st century world-class institution that'll be a museum that kids will drag their parents to versus parents drag their kids to. You'll have the opportunity to learn birth to death sequentially, the experiences of TR's life. You're going to find every fact you want for the very traditional museum experiences like perhaps ourselves who want to have artifacts under glass and text on walls. There's plenty of that. There's also 8 different adventure galleries within it as well, where you get to learn from TR, not about TR. You'll get to sit around the Elkhorn Ranch campfire and talk to the different characters of TR's time, the cowboys who actually met this kind of wild, aristocratic, wealthy Easterner who came here wearing custom-made Brooks Brothers Western cowboy costume, and I will call it a costume, and we have it on display at the library because he designed it to look as Western as possible, with a custom-made Tiffany's knife with himself cut into it. He went from that to considered a local and elected to local office in 2 years' time during the peak of the Wild West. That shows you that this man was appreciated and one of a kind. I've been in the Badlands now for 10 years. I think I'm a little ways away from still being considered a local. And I say that tongue-in-cheek and also very embracing of the fact that we are very passionate about our communities in this state. But you get to sit around the Elkhorn Ranch and see how he came up with this conservation ethic. You'll get to take the train, as TR did when he got a memo from his brother that said there's a pox on this house, both mother's dying and Alice is dying too. And he rushed back to New York to spend the last moments with his mother and Alice on February 14th, 1884, when he lost his wife and mother on the same day in the same house. And you get to see the diary that he put in X and said, "The light has gone out of my life." The first time it's ever been on public display in American history. What this library is doing is taking artifacts that have been 10 stories underground in Washington, D.C., only accessible to the senators or wealthy benefactors of institutions, and bringing them out to the public. Over 500 of these artifacts. And I think interesting too, for technology individuals who love 21st century museums, this will have the first ever AI president. You will be able to talk with TR about anything at any time for at any length. I got to yesterday chit-chat about North Dakota's history and how its place in the world. What did this place meant to him? I got to ask him relationship advice, ask about his love of the outdoors, how he deals with loss and grieving.
What was his relationship advice, I'm wondering?
Well, let's just say, if he wants you to find somebody who challenges you and makes you better. He's not really for the status quo. And you better like the outdoors as well. So indoor pets, not quite TR's thing. But you'll have the opportunity to do these incredible experiences. You'll take a 14-minute ride down the River of Doubt in canoes. So, Rob, it's going to be very fun for people who are into, let's say, a little bit more technologically forward institutions, but also it's worthy of visiting if you just love architecture. We built what I think is one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. It is going to be zero water, zero waste, zero energy, and zero carbon. That is going to be it's something called the Living Building Challenge. There are only 300 buildings on Earth that have achieved this goal. And we built one, the largest of any of them in North Dakota. So you'll be in the most environmentally sustainable building on Earth when you get there. We're super pumped that it's going to be surpassed. That's the whole point. But TR looked 100 years into the future, and that's what he saw America. So we're trying to look 100 years into the future. And we're doing it all in North Dakota, which, as you two who both know me, it's like I fell in love with TR because I love North Dakota. So he's our guy. We're claiming him fully. This is the place. This is the fulcrum point in the hero's journey. And we want people to come and connect to his story.
Robbie, I want you to know it's taking everything in my power not to make jokes about politicians wearing cowboy costumes in Western North Dakota.
You're cutting out, Chad.
They're more
You're cutting
But
out,
my
Chad.
question, Robbie, is so obviously having President Trump out on July 1st, really big deal. Do you expect there to continue to be sort of other programming, other special guests coming out? Because I know at one point there was rumors flying around that every president who's ever been is going to be out here on the 4th of July. Do you expect there'll continue to be special guests and programs and that kind of thing in the years to come?
Absolutely. I think Medora, North Dakota will be the intellectual heart of the conservation movement on Earth. And you may think I sound ridiculous stating that, but I know it to be true. This is going to be the place where we get people from the energy industry and the advocacy place of environmentalism together to have important conversations about taking care of our planet. We're going to find out that TR is a Rorschach test. What you see in him says more about you than it says about him. He is the favorite senator of Josh Hawley and Elizabeth Warren. Turns out perhaps we need somebody like that to bring us around a campfire and talk about the actually difficult issues in ways that are focused on solutions and problem solving versus just name calling. So stay tuned, Chad. This is the beginning of our programming. I want this to be a global center for convening in a town that, frankly, when you get there, your blood pressure lowers. You get outside, the building actually looks at the exact draw where TR got off the train for the first time, September 8th, 1883. At the base of our draw is where he hopped off, and the butte beyond it is the national park named after him. There's only one national park in the entire system named after a person. It's TR. The answer to all trivia questions is TR with me. But sincerely, like, this is a special place. So have you ever been to Aspen Institute or, places in think tanks in DC? This is going to be that for conservation.
Let me, along this process, there was a little bit, we heard people complaining about some of the money that the state made available for the project. We heard some things about donations or whatever. Give us a summary. How do we end up on the financing for this thing now that we're on the verge of opening?
Yep. So, Rob, usually on a capital campaign, there's a moment where you announce the final total. Let's just say we're getting very close to that. And you can imagine the run up to grand opening is an important part of fundraising. But I can tell you that, our project goal was $450 million. I'm feeling extremely confident in our capabilities to reach that. And there'll be news shared very soon. But I want to acknowledge what you said head on, which is about the public financing component. First, the state of North Dakota put the first $50 million as a challenge grant to raise $100 million to access that 50. That is an endowment. So $0 of that $50 million has been spent on construction. $0 of the earnings, frankly, have been spent. We have it siphoned off in a separate fund where it hasn't been touched, because that for us in the legislative intent was for the operations and maintenance of a facility. We're not open. So everything that we have done thus far with that monies has been just let it grow. It is, and frankly, the entirety of this project would never have happened without it. The secret about presidential libraries is that it's really helpful to have a president who's alive to fundraise for you. It's pretty tough. We have the great-great-great-grandson of TR. He's a great guy, but it's not quite the same as President Obama calling you. So the state was the first investor in this project and set apart a really incredible goal, which is to raise $100 million of private capital during, by the way, COVID, that allowed us to set a deadline and reach some financing. So, Rob, you're going to be very pleased with what we announce very soon. I am going to hold off a little bit because we're hoping to still add on to that for the next week or so. But the project is wildly successful. And I also note the presidential libraries they're expensive to build. This is a world-class cultural institution. The Obama Library was near $1 billion in total. So we like to say we're building a global institution for half the price of our contemporary, which, by the way, we think was an incredible investment for the community of Chicago.
So, Robbie, one of the things, Rob sort of joked about wanting to go there when there's not so many people around. And I saw the show, CBS Sunday Morning had an episode or a story about it. And I'd like to go at a time when there's not 1,500 people crammed in there, 2,000 people. Is there like a flow to this? Like, is it going to be like a drop down in foot traffic like around August 1st, or do you expect it to slow down a year from now? Or is there any sort of historical data to say, Rob Port, this is when you should come if you want to fully immerse yourself in the museum?
Going in February. That's where I'm going.
Well, we know that's when North Dakota's tourism is the highest. Well, let me say this. It's my goal that this place is full constantly. But we are well aware that we're building a cultural institution in the town of 120 people and a county of 1,000 people at the entrance of a national park. So there is like a sincere period of May to September that Medora can be very busy. That being said, there's a brand new hotel. This museum is 100,000 square feet. I have good news for both of you. You're not going to be bumping into people constantly. There's room for flow. But in the off season, which is the winter in North Dakota, we're going to still be absolutely open. But it's our goal to have K-12 kids there. Who doesn't remember, who's a student in North Dakota, your eighth grade field trip to the state capitol, perhaps during session where you got to vote and you got to go to the Heritage Center. And if it was warm out, you got to go to Fort Abraham and Lincoln. That was foundational for my connection and love of now government, politics, democracy, North Dakota history. That was key. Well, we now have what I would generally say is the greatest cultural institution of American history on earth being built right now in North Dakota. Every 4th and 8th grader should be there. That's when North Dakota studies and environmental studies are. So it's our goal in the winter to have buses pulling up every day full of kids. When you walk up to it, the first thing you actually see is classrooms. Everything about our building is not accidental. The first thing we want you to see is kids learning. And by the way, we're getting in there to get you out of there. And how do kids also know about TR largely these days? The movie Night at the Museum. If only we had a museum that kids could perhaps stay overnight in and have an incredible adventure. So we're going to try to do world-class educational experiences in a place that hasn't had the Louvre or the American Museum of Natural History or the Smithsonian. We're going to do it in the heart of the country. There's places like Bentonville, Arkansas, that everybody said it's insane to build a $500 million museum in. Now they have revitalized the entire community. People love it. They travel from hours and hours away. We're at the heart of the Great American Road Trip. If we just pull a little bit more people from South Dakota and the Black Hills and a little more from Yellowstone, we're going to be just fine.
I remember when Secretary Burgum was Governor Burgum, that was something he did. It was originally being planned to be built, I think, on the Dickinson State University campus in Dickinson. Governor Burgum was sort of instrumental in pushing it to Medora, and obviously some parochial politics involved there, where everybody wants it, in their backyard and not the other backyard. And I thought moving it to Medora was brilliant. Again, I understand it's a tiny community in a tiny county. It's very rural. It is on a major interstate, though.
It has 700 hotel rooms. I mean, it's a tourist town.
I thought it was brilliant putting it there. And obviously the meaning of Medora to Theodore Roosevelt. So I think that's great. I think it's a wonderful project. I was so glad we did it. I never understood the naysayers about it. Because at some point, like, this is the stuff we have to do. I mean, this is the stuff, if we say that we're patriots and we care about American history, this is a vital part. It's not all encompassing, but this is a vital part of our state's history, of our nation's history. This was a huge transformative figure who really sort of bridged the gap between, I don't know what you want to call it, the, almost, I mean, he bridged a gap in eras, sort of between the modern era and the past.
The Gilded Age
so
and the
there you go.
No question.
Perfect. Yeah. Just hugely important. So this really matters, and it's beautiful. And sometimes we need to show that we're humans just by building beautiful things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Robbie,
I'm going to put that in an ad. I'm going to put that in an ad. Sorry, Chad.
Yeah. Robbie, what's the cost to get in?
The cost is $26 for an adult. He was the 26th president. We have a reduced rate, I think $14 for kids. And let's just say we have ticket pricing for veterans and other days, and we're going to have dates for special reduced discounts as well. But it's going to be affordable for families.
Season passes or anything like that, or is it just one?
Thank you, Chad. Gosh, you guys are good. Okay, go to trlibrary.com and become a founding member for $200.
Robbie did not give us talking points. These are genuinely
I'm doing a poor job.
questions.
I wanted to come and talk history, and these guys are selling my product for me. This is great. You should become a founding member. Institutions like this are not built to make money and to be, we say nonprofit's a tax status, not a business model. We absolutely intend to make this an incredibly successful institution, but it's philanthropy that's made this possible. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been donated, from 26 cents to $50 million gifts to this project, because people believe that America needs a little bit more TR and it needs a little bit more North Dakota. So you can become a founding member and have unlimited access to the museum for the rest of the year for $250. And by the way, then you're also supporting this institution. It's something to me. I have my groups, TRMF is one of them, NDSU, Team Makers, the State Historical Society, all these groups that I am a member of. I do it because I go there. The Bismarck Zoo, we're there a lot right now. We're a part of them not because we just want to go, but because it's important to our community. And we need to sustain these institutions. So we dared greatly, as TR would tell us, to build this incredible institution, but it's our goal to welcome the world to it. We can joke a lot about, we don't want to be there when it's too busy, but the goal is for it to be very busy, and for us to add more hotel rooms.
You're talking to a couple of introverts who are worried about the crowds being too big.
I know.
So
you guys like books and podcasts. So do I secretly. People don't believe me, but that's actually where I'm actually pretty similar. But the truth is, there used to be an ad called Spend a Day in Medora. I thought that was fun, but you can spend a week in Medora. My entire goal, and our entire goal of this institution, is to stop being the 50th state people visit. We are worthy of being the first state you visit. So we're done with the self-patronizing comments about our beautiful North Dakota. This place is the epicenter of one of the greatest stories in the history of the world. It is the fulcrum point of the hero's journey. and you'll get to come learn it in a place that's pretty dang fun for families.
Well,
Yeah, I
Robbie,
would
thank you so
also,
much.
like,
Oh,
I
sorry.
want to go back to
Yeah.
the state funding piece of it. I would encourage the naysayers. It's built now, right? Now we should all be in. No matter how we felt about the state funding, everybody should be in now and be celebrating this great thing because it is a wonderful thing for the state.
And Chad, can I just add one thing on that as well? I hope this is an incredible story of what our state can do and when we dare greatly and put big ideas out there. I generally kind of joke with people, our tourism strategy in the past is having the largest animal in lots of small towns. Like, this is the town with the largest sandhill crane. This is the town with the largest. I love New Salem Sue. She's my gal. I see her all the time. But it's about building differentiators to bring people here, extend their trip, and diversify our economy. And we have one of the most incredibly successful states in the world to do it. So thanks for saying that. And you guys are better salesmen of this project than me. So I'm getting both of you to grand opening or very soon after. I am very persistent. Check your email. And I'd invite the whole world to come to Medora this summer.
Well, Robbie, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for your leadership on this project. This is going to be a treasure for North Dakota for a treasure embedded in what was already a treasure for our state. So it's a really good thing. Robbie, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Robbie. Good luck.
The North Dakota oil and natural gas industry works here, and works here, and here, and even works here by creating 60,000 jobs statewide and generating billions of tax dollars annually to support our infrastructure, flood protection projects, and our schools. North Dakota Oil and Natural Gas, advancing the possibilities.
Learn more at ndpetroleumfoundation.org.
This episode is presented by Recovery Centers of Montana.
I woke up one day and didn't even know who I was anymore. And coming to Recovery Centers of Montana definitely changed my life. So you are not a lost cause, and I know it's scary to make a life change, but coming here will save your life.
Learn more by calling 701-401-3000.
That's 701-401-3000.
Hey, Plain Talk listeners, have something to say? Call or text Plain Talk with your questions, comments, or headlines you want us to cover.
Just dial 701-587-3141. Leave us your message or shoot us a text with your name and location, and you could be featured on an upcoming show.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I am in Jamestown.
Hey, Rob and Chad. My name's Tony. I live in Grand Forks.
That's 701-587-3141.
Call us, text us, vent, praise.
We want you in the conversation. Thanks for being part of the show.
Now let's get back to today's episode.
Chad, it's not hard to tell that guy is a protege of Doug Burgum. And I say that complimentary. I really like Robbie Lauf, and I have nothing but praise for his leadership on this project. But frankly, I have nothing but praise for Governor Burgum, now Secretary Burgum, for his leadership on this. I think it was smart moving it to Medora. I mean, the ball was kind of rolling on this before he became governor, but I think it was smart moving this to Medora. I think their grand vision for it is right. He is so enthusiastic about it, and I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful thing for North Dakota. It really
I'm
is.
excited. Yeah, Robbie's done a spectacular job, as the whole team has, and I don't know that I was ever as maybe supportive of the public dollars going to this as a lot of other people. But now that it's done, I think we really need to be embracing this opportunity. And Robbie's excited about this. I mean, you follow that kind of energy, and he's a good salesman, even though he wanted to nerd out on history more than actually selling things on the podcast. But he's done a tremendous job. The team has done a tremendous job. This is super, super exciting. Here's my hope, though, Rob. I hope Donald Trump doesn't come here on July 1st and give a stupid partisan speech that sort of sets a bad tone for this wonderful week of celebration.
Yeah, I've chosen that. I've decided that it doesn't matter. I don't care what the man has to say. I mean, in a vacuum, of course, the president coming to open something like this is a big deal. The problem is it's this president. And he's got his audience, and the audience loves his routine. It's just, I don't think his routine is befitting for an institution like this. First, in celebration of a man that appeals to so many different people across the ideological spectrums, but also something that is for everybody to enjoy, however they feel about Donald Trump. So the problem with Donald Trump is he makes everything about Donald
About
Trump.
him. Yeah. Well, and
And
I
I
love
don't want this to be about Donald Trump. I want this to be about Teddy Roosevelt. I want this to be about the era of history that he lived in and shaped. I want it then, third on the rung, I want it to be about all the people from Robbie Lauf down to the people sweeping the floors who have been working hard to make this happen, and all the people who contributed money for whether it was whether it was a quarter or whether it was $50 million. And there may have even been some donations from me in there too. That made this happen. It's a good thing for everybody. And I'm tired of people taking what we've seen happen with the 250th anniversary celebrations nationally has been a disgrace and unfortunate. And I don't want to rain on North Dakota's parade.
I loved what Robbie said in terms of people. The way people look at Teddy Roosevelt says more about them than him, because some people on the left will look at him as this great conservationist, and then people on the right will look at him as this great rugged individualist. And, he's both of those things, right? And it appeals to both sides. I didn't know that he was they were having Kevin Kramer and Kirsten Gillibrand debate where Teddy Roosevelt would fit in today's political parties. I think that'll be fascinating, because I think both of them are probably really strong debaters.
One of my favorite anecdotes is I think it was, so being appointed postmaster used to be a big deal, like those presidential appointments, that exercising that patronage, the spoils system, they used to call it. He appointed a black woman to be the postmaster in Mississippi. And perhaps not surprisingly, some people in Mississippi didn't like that much. And so what the president said is essentially you could either accept her as the postmaster or you're not going to get your mail. And the people of Mississippi backed down. He was the first president to host a black person in the White House. There was really some, but also, he embraced nativism in some ways, and he had some things to say about immigrants and that quote about hyphenated Americanism that a lot of people like to throw around. People like to throw around a lot of fake Teddy Roosevelt quotes too. When my daughter graduated from high school, their program for the graduation had a quote from Teddy Roosevelt. That's not really a quote from Teddy Roosevelt.
I also was not aware of like the high tech, high sort of conservation that building is. I mean, the fact that it's water neutral, carbon neutral, energy neutral, one of only 300 buildings and the biggest. I mean, this is an architectural marvel right there in Medora, North Dakota. So, it's exciting stuff.
Well, there's some political tension around that too, where we're building that, maybe not in the heart of North Dakota's oil patch, but certainly adjacent to it. And you look at some of the leaders who are going to be speaking there. I know we're actually going to have some guests on the podcast coming up who are going to be pretty critical, I think, of Secretary Burgum and his stance on opening up public lands to exploration. While simultaneously, what Robbie said, this library has been an important part of Doug Burgum's legacy. He's valued it highly. And so I guess that's that Rorschach test thing again, right?
But it's also it's Doug Burgum's complete switch in terms of priorities as governor of North Dakota versus his priorities as a Trump cabinet member.
He was pretty in favor of developing oil and gas when he was governor of North Dakota.
That's fair. But
I don't think that was one of the places he flipped. And to be honest with you, I think, and maybe this is the Rorschach thing. As I've read Teddy Roosevelt, I have a feeling he would have been fine with balancing conservation with our need to use the land and to get resources out of it. But also I don't like playing that game. Teddy Roosevelt was president more than 100 years ago. It was a different world and a different place. And I think sometimes we work really hard to transplant as a matter of fact, I always think this is a funny anecdote. Like my least favorite form of punditry is when Fox News or somebody digs up a relative of somebody who is famous and like their job is to explain to us what this famous person would have thought about this current issue if they'd been alive. So it's always like some relative of Martin Luther King. Michael Reagan, for instance, has made a career out of explaining to people what his father would have thought of modern events. And it's so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, just think about it. So Teddy Roosevelt walks into his presidential library I don't think he'd recognize a lot of the things he would see there in terms of AI and high tech and all that other stuff. It's a bit of
We
a
have
different
no
world.
idea how he would feel about those things.
I will tell you, I was at so you said you've been to several libraries. I've been to Kennedy, Clinton, and Carter. I thought Kennedy and Carter's were amazing. I was just in Clinton's in May. I was completely underwhelmed. Like, I was just completely underwhelmed.
I've heard the Clinton one's not very good.
Yeah. I mean, and Carter's is the post-presidency, right? I mean, there's just so much stuff about his post-presidency that's amazing. And then Kennedy's Kennedy.
You should go to the Reagan Library. I think you would really find
Is that Southern or Northern California?
Simi Valley.
Okay.
So that is close to LA. I think it's like a couple hour drive out of LA, if I remember right.
And that's the one that's got the plane in it, right?
They have the whole Air Force One in there. You can go up inside it. While I was there, they had a replica of the Brandenburg's Gate speech and the speechwriter's typewriter. And they made it because famously Reagan like added, the Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall. The speechwriters took it out and then he added it back in like, no, I'm going to say it. And so you see like the handwritten correction
so that is
on the
always
speech.
One of my favorite things when you see speeches at those kind of places and you can see the handwritten notes, like the president's doing it in real time.
Led up to it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is. President Reagan and the First Lady are buried there. They had a chunk of and I think the other thing about the Teddy Roosevelt Library is going to also be the exhibits that come through. So when I visited the Reagan Library, they actually had a copy of the Magna Carta. It was like a touring copy and they had it there and they had a whole display. Absolutely fascinating to see a document like that in person. I didn't even know what was going to be there. And so that was amazing.
And just think about the ongoing cool stuff that's going to be coming to Medora, North Dakota because of this. I mean, it's awesome. People should go. People should go, Rob.
People should absolutely go. Whether you go the first day, whether you go a year from now, you should go. I know the Port family's going to make. We love going to Medora anyway. We go at least every couple of years, and if not more. And that's going to be along with, going through the park, along with going to the musical, going up to the chateau. We're going to be spending a lot of time at that library. It's going to be a wonderful amenity for our state. Okay, let's switch gears. Let's talk politics a little bit. We still have a little bit to wrap up about the primary. I know we've talked a lot about the primary and the implications and everything. I wrote a column because it was frustrating me. I get another of my least favorite forms of punditry is where people try to shoehorn results into partisan narratives and it becomes about Team Red versus Team Blue, like we're doing sports punditry on Sports Center or something. There were a couple of columns. I saw that Scott Hennon had a column sort of bemoaning the fact that Michelle Turnberg lost the Fargo mayoral race. Mike McFeely came back with a column sort of responding to that, saying Fargo's a blue town. And I think they both missed the mark. I think you and I have discussed that the through line of that primary, and I think the Fargo city elections are a nice microcosm of it, but they're certainly not the only place it happened. I think in this election, in June of 2026 in the primary, North Dakota voters decided they wanted public service and not ideology. I don't think they cared that much about who was the most liberal or the most conservative or what have you in the race. I think they wanted people who were going to be grown-ups and talk about real problems. And I think the reason why the argument Fargo's a blue town. Well, how do you explain the fact that someone like Chad Peterson was the top vote getter in the city commission race on the same ballot as Josh Boucher running for mayor? What do those two gentlemen have in common? Not ideology, but they do have the fact that they're serious public servants.
They're serious public servants who are willing to sit down with anybody to have a conversation. I mean, ideologically, I line up with one way better than the other, but my interactions with both have been fantastic. I also think it diminishes Josh Boucher's accomplishment. Josh Boucher didn't win Fargo's mayor race because he was a Democrat. He got 47% of the vote in a five-way race because he's an exceptionally competent politician who cares greatly about the city of Fargo. That's why Josh Boucher got 47%. It doesn't matter if he's a Democrat or Republican. He had high name ID. He ran a good campaign. He's well connected in that community. That's about him. That's not about a party.
Yep. I think the campaign stuff, I think all that matters, but also his message wasn't an ideological one.
Right.
His message wasn't, we're going to solve all Fargo's problems with liberalism or progressivism. His argument was, we're going to solve Fargo's crime problems by doing this. We're going to solve Fargo's financial issues by doing this. He talked about real issues, and now it's on him. He's going to have to govern, and that's not an easy job. And I don't. I wouldn't want that job because Fargo's got some real challenges ahead of it. But that's why he won that election. It wasn't because he was a Democrat. He won because he ran the best campaign, and voters bought into the idea that he's going to be a real problem solver. That's what they were looking for.
And one other thing on the Fargo mayor's race, I'm sure you saw on social media that Michelle Turnberg reached out to Josh. They met for several hours after the election because they're going to have to work together in the city. There's still two of the five votes. I think that was great on both of their part to send a message to the people of Fargo, ready to do business. We're ready to work. You guys want to tell us your
I'm not here to
ideologues.
throw shade. Kudos to Michelle Turnberg for doing that. And I say kudos to her in particular because it's hard to lose.
Right.
It's hard to lose.
And she's widely seen as being part of a political movement that doesn't accept election defeat very well historically. I mean, when you look at President Trump. So I was super impressed by her reaching out to Josh. And obviously, Josh taking a meeting is a smart thing to do.
I mean, we could almost spend a whole show just talking about how important that is in this environment, like accepting, okay, they won, the other side won, and now I have to work with them. And we're going to open up the lines of communications, and we're going to do our best. And then the next election will probably be at loggerheads again. And that's okay. That's the process. But you have to work together because too often, and we see it at the national level, we see it at the local level. I think thankfully, North Dakota is still very well governed. And I think part of that is Republicans and Democrats in the legislature, they find ways to work together.
Although I will tell you, there was something I saw on social media the other day that somebody showed me, and it was one of the new candidates, I think in District 29, a normally Republican, who commented on something about not wanting to stand in this, like next to a Democrat or something like that. I think that often is the case with new candidates, like when they're in their bubbles, and then once they get to Bismarck, they work better and it was an offhanded comment, like in a thread or something. And so I would just encourage candidates on both sides, like, don't just lump everybody from the other side together, right? I mean, because again, when you get to Bismarck, you're going to find you're going to work with both parties. If you're in a committee, you work with both parties and both wings of the Republican Party. So I hope that people sort of slow down and do a little bit of thinking about how policy's made. And I apologize if it's not the right candidate. I apologize. I should have.
We didn't name a name. You thought it was District 29. Maybe.
Yeah, but I don't know that for sure. But it was one of the normal Republicans that I think is a good thing that, and I've heard great things about. And so I saw this comment and it was a little disappointing.
I mean, listen, it's easy to get frustrated with the other sides, and the way this stuff works, sometimes you end up talking about groups of people instead of individuals. And listen, that was a lesson I had to learn early on is I mean, if you're going to be critical or be that way, then there's a price to be paid and their willingness to work with you. And I
you
think
have to
the
be
people are
prepared
better.
to accept it. Like, you're every Republican then, right? I mean, if all Democrats are the same, then you have to own Donald Trump and all the other stuff that goes along with
And
it.
Nico Rios.
I wouldn't
And
want to own
Desiree
that.
Morton and Lori Van Winkle. I mean, you have to own all of them too. And I don't think that that's fair.
Yeah.
And it's very important. I think it's incumbent upon us on Americans to, at the end of the day, just be Americans together.
Right. And I think it goes back to Teddy Roosevelt again, right? I mean, if we can get Kristen Gillibrand and Kevin Kramer in a room talking about what they see of Teddy Roosevelt and the commonalities, that's a good thing. We need more of that.
I wouldn't care about Donald Trump coming if I didn't think he was going to be a distraction from. My problem is not ideology or his policy or anything like that. My problem is he makes everything about himself.
Yeah, and what I'm hopeful about, it's on the front end, right? I think, he will be a distraction on that first day.
It's like we can get it over with, and then we can get on with the real part of it. What did you think of my column about the way where I just feel like everybody is just kind of like, yeah, it's Trump. This doesn't feel like Trump coming to Fargo in 2016 anymore, or him coming to
didn't Trump come out
Fargo in 2018, Bismarck in 2016, I should say.
Yeah, when Trump came out to Bismarck in 2016, I mean, you could feel it everywhere.
It was electric.
Right? You could just feel it. I hated it, but you could feel it. Everybody was excited. It feels different, and maybe part of it is, I think, this idea, like, it seemed like everybody knew he was coming out for this thing, so maybe it was like, oh, they finally announced it that he was coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just hopeful he makes it about if he could just not mention Joe Biden, if he could not mention, some of the people he likes to call names, that'd be
Maybe
great.
don't riff on whatever's in the headlines that day. Maybe just
Right.
talk about Teddy Roosevelt, praise the people who did the hard work to make this thing happen. And just for a moment, put America, like the larger arc of our history, ahead of your immediate id.
Yeah, and maybe make
That'd
it
be
about
nice
Doug Burgum's work on this. That feels like something he should
because
be
he
able to talk
genuinely
about.
deserves credit for it.
Hmm.
Genuinely deserves credit for it. It's a really big deal for our state. Hey, we have a couple of text messages. In fact, one that came in while we were recording
Man, I
earlier.
love the text messages because just so listeners know, I never read the first time I hear it is on air. So if you want to text something that takes shots at me, you can see my response in real time if you
I will,
watch.
and we will put the ones that take shots at Chad, on the air every time. The ones
Yeah,
that take
every
shots
time.
at me are getting deleted. No,
Little bit of
I'm kidding.
screening. Little screening.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We don't do that. By the way, 701-587-3141 if you want to send a text message. You can also leave a voicemail, and we can play the audio on air as well. Okay, first text message, unsigned. Now, they're referring to a column I wrote about the NDGOP's finances. Their cash on hand is really low. I'm hearing rumors about they're going to be in trouble. So this person read that column and said, I quote, NDGOP reported receiving nearly $20,000 from the Winklevoss twins in their May filings, cryptocurrency connection in North Dakota. And my response, first of all, that's true. That was in there.
That is true.
Yeah, it is
Wow.
true. Now the interesting thing is sometimes you see celebrities pop up in these state party reports. It's not that unusual. Happens with Democrats sometimes. Happens sometimes you'll see something wild like Barbara Streisand's in there or something. And what's usually happening there is there's donation limits. And so sometimes it's well, make a big donation to these state parties or something like that. That donation probably has less to do with anything going on in North Dakota than probably just some intra-party financing where the national Republicans say, okay, the Winklevosses will make this donation and that'll offset something that we have to send down. I would be very surprised if it was tied to anything in particular. I think if the Winklevosses wanted to get something done in North Dakota, you'd see campaign contributions start showing up in state campaign reports and not the state
Yeah,
party.
it would be Governor Armstrong before
Right.
the state
And also
GOP.
given the state of the North Dakota Republican Party, who exactly do they have clout with right now? The North Dakota Republican Party doesn't really associate that much with our present Republican leadership. So I think that's probably just an institution. And again, I read these reports all the time. I see those names pop up. So you'll see big famous trial lawyers sometimes. You'll see those names pop up. And it's just kind of a funny financing thing. It
Yeah, they'll
usually
max
doesn't.
out to all the state parties in addition to doing a huge donation to the national party or something
Right.
like that. Yeah.
So that's probably, I would be shocked if it had any real tie to a project or policy or something that's going on specifically in North Dakota. So that's really all that is. All right. Second text message. This comes from Carter in Valley City, who sends us a few messages. He says, your answer to my last question got me thinking. So I'd love to hear your take on this question. Will the Dem NPL's increased presence on district legislative tickets have a quantifiable impact on the NDGOP's budget or overall resources? Could their increased presence impact the NDGOP's ability to support statewide candidates like Julie Fedorchak? And my response to that is, well, no. For part of the reason that I just discussed in the last question, the NDGOP is not in a position to really help anybody. They don't have any money. Also, this NDGOP doesn't like Julie Fedorchak that much. They're not doing anything for it. The party really doesn't do a lot specifically for the candidates. In the past, when the party was less dysfunctional, a lot of what you would see, they would sort of help coordinate candidate recruitment. You'd have the state chair kind of going around saying, okay, who can we recruit here? Who can we recruit there? And then they would do like kind of general, like get out the vote stuff. That was sort of, the candidates are really in charge of their own stuff. Julie Fedorchak does not need anything. She wasn't going to get anything from the North Dakota Republican Party. She doesn't need anything from the North Dakota Republican Party.
Yeah,
And a
it's
lot of these
usually-
legislative races, I think, are in the same position.
It's usually just the opposite. I mean, when I was involved in Dem stuff, Kent Byron and Earl gave a lot of money to the state party to do those get out the vote, coordinated campaign sort of activities. The one place, though, I think that Carter's point might make a difference is, so the Dems have filled way more spots than they have
just gonna get to that.
historically. And so you might have the Senate and House caucuses having to spread their money thinner to protect folks. They won't be able to put such large sums of money in some of these districts because they have more incumbents with challengers. I think you might see some of that, or large conservative PACs not being able to give just to a few different people. So again, I think it's a good thing for the Dems to have as many candidates on the ballot as possible to make folks work, because it does make them spread out their caucus money and some of their leadership money, but not specific to the state party's resources.
I expect that Democrats are going to pick up some legislative seats this time around. I'm not talking about a blue wave. I think at the end, if they netted picking up 3, 4, 5 seats, that's kind of the ballpark of what I'm thinking. And I think there'll be 2 reasons for that. I think one might be some of the national mood. I think this is going to be a pretty tough midterm for elections overall, and there's no presidential race. But then also 2, I think it's going to be what Carter's talking about, where the Democrats had a really good recruitment cycle. They've sort of spread out the map and made Republicans have to work in more places. And again, the party's dysfunctional right now, so a lot of it's up to sort of the team. I'm sure Governor Armstrong's team is going to be engaged. In some ways, that's almost like a shadow party.
Right.
I mean, kind of fulfilling the function that the North Dakota Republican Party should be to a degree. But if the Democrats pick up seats, I think it'll be because of those 2 factors, and probably more the second than the first.
So I think one of the things we might see is there's not going to be that many competitive seats in November. It's just the way the state is made up. But you might see 1 or 2 districts in the eastern part of the state where maybe the Dem candidates aren't as strong as you'd think they are, but they end up winning because a little bit of a blue wave in the Red River Valley could go really far. I mean, I think about like a District 41 where Davison's at, and there's 2 open house seats. I think that's one that might surprise people a little. 42 with the
where you're going to see a big shift in who turns out to vote. The students weren't there for the primary; they're going to be there for the general.
43. I mean, my nervousness for Dems there is ISTA's not running. Does that? I mean, so you're potentially net -1 there if ISTA doesn't run. So I think it's somewhere in that, -1 to +3 or 4 is what. It's not going to be a big shift, but the legislature is going to be different, as we've talked about the last couple of weeks, because of the primary result. And I think Dems will have more authority, not more authority, just more influence working in the middle to try to get things done.
Well, because I think what the primary did, I think what the primary has already accomplished is shift us towards the middle. And if we're shifted more towards the middle, you're going to have more. Tim Mahalik, and I keep thinking District 3 because it's in my backyard here in Minot, but Tim Mahalik and Blaine Delorier are 2 good public service guys. They're going to listen to their Democratic colleagues when they come knocking. They're not always going to agree with them because they're still Republicans at the end of the day, but they're going to work with them far more so than Lori Van Winkle or Jeff Hoverson did. So I think stuff like that, I think to your point, Chad, that's exactly what's going on. All right. Thank you, Carter, and whoever sent that other text. Really appreciate all the feedback.
Anonymous texts us all the time.
I have their phone number, but I feel sketchy about identifying them by their phone number on the recording. Certainly appreciate everybody coming on. 701-587-3141. Again, if you want to send a text, leave us a voicemail. Plain Talk ND is our tag on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, all those places. Also, plaintalknd.com. That takes you to our YouTube channel, which is a great place to watch the show. And of course, 5:30 p.m. weeknights, WDAY Extra on television. You can watch an edited version of the show for television. Matt takes out all our swears and stuff.
That's bleeping ridiculous.
He doesn't. We don't actually swear that often. We've sworn a few times. But I did that
And
one
then
time. I
Rob
went on a pod.
reprimands me when I swear.
I went on a live stream that was here in Minot, and I didn't know it was being simulcasted over a radio station at the same time. And I went on there and started dropping F-bombs, and they were like, "Whoa, pump the brakes, my man." That wasn't good. All right. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again. That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening.
You're
To
cutting
seem
out,
like they're
Chad.
more.
You're cutting
But
out,
my-
Chad.
This episode is presented by Recovery Centers of Montana.
If you or someone you know is struggling, getting help shouldn't feel out of reach.
Recovery Centers of Montana offers care across 6 locations, including inpatient facilities and outpatient clinics.
Step away from the noise and focus on getting your life back on track.
Learn more by calling 701-401-3000.
That's 701-401-3000.
Hi, I'm Megan Invick with Americans for Prosperity, North Dakota. One of the cornerstones of our Road to Opportunity agenda is tax relief, because North Dakotans deserve to keep more of what they earn. That's why we're advocating for the elimination of the state income tax, along with meaningful property tax relief tied to responsible local spending. Learn more about the Road to Opportunity and our plan to eliminate the state income tax at afpnd.org.
This episode is presented by Recovery Centers of Montana.
If you or someone you know is struggling, getting help shouldn't feel out of reach.
Recovery Centers of Montana offers care across 6 locations, including inpatient facilities and outpatient clinics.
Step away from the noise and focus on getting your life back on track.
Learn more by calling 701-401-3000.
That's 701-401-3000.